What's up, YouTube? Just pulling out of the camper here and headed on out to work. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Road Access. A little late morning this morning. I got up and did some emails. Worked a little bit on my YouTube channel. Just typing up some stuff. Worked on that stuff last night till about midnight, so worked pretty late. Got up this morning a little slow. Trying to be accountable, though, like I was saying, it's a blessing and a curse working for yourself, because sometimes you can work when you want, and sometimes you work when you don't want, or don't work when you don't want. So it's definitely one of the hardest things about, like running your own business, and to me, like finding the clients, like they'll come, like it was hard finding the pricing in the beginning, but basically I just reached out to people that I knew, mentors, whatever, and then tried to get an idea, and then used the knowledge that I had from before just to try to get an idea, and it all just started working out, so one of my biggest struggles is really just like getting up and going when I don't have to. I'm one of those people that's pretty much like never been late for work. There's a time or two here and there where I got there right on time or whatever, but it's hard for me, like in this situation where, yeah, I'll be there sometime today, or I'll be there in the morning, like unless I have a hard time, it's just hard for me to get up and get going. And since today's Thursday, I promised to make today a little bit more things to think about, insights, I guess motivational thoughts, things like that, and less about the work. But I'm on the way to Dinkole right now. I'm gonna pick up a base plate, and then I'm gonna go over to that one house where I've got to put the handrail, a little short banister, 3 foot. Got some material in the back that I had left over from another job, so it worked out. I'm not going to be out any money other than one piece of flat strap, because this guy wants the 7 panel whatever, and so I just got to get that ordered. But I'm going to go over there and fab up this rail and get it started. And so I am going to have to buy the material for those little just flat rails like I was talking about, where it's just like going down into a basement. He just wants the rail on the side, not a banister type railing. So I got to look at Dinkole when I'm there and try to find the little attachment plates, So like if you have a house that has like those wood handrails going to your basement, there's those little like ugly brass things or whatever that attach to the wall. And so I'm just trying to avoid fabricating that stuff, just because I don't want to take the time to do it. If I can buy it relatively cheap, it's cheaper than what it would cost me in time to make it, So one of the things that I was going to say for today's Thoughtful Thursday is, for you guys that are like starting out, for me, it's even hard for me, I've talked with a lot of people who have become really successful. Some folks are just running their own business and happy doing that. Other folks are multimillionaires. And I've asked, where does it take to get started? Like how long did it take you to get to where you felt like you were on a roll? Like where did it start to finally feel like it was positive? And, in this business, I would say we're pretty fortunate that basically we charge labor. If I have to pick up materials, I charge a little bit over it, so I'm making money on it, if nothing else, to cover my time to pick up and drop it, like deliver it. And then, like in some of like these handrails, I just quote all of that into it. But let's say I quoted to go and install some angle iron in a, for a commercial job, it would be, you supply the materials and I'll do it for X dollars. And so that's how I bid everything. So it's straight profit as far as the business goes, minus fuel expenses, which is the only thing that you would say comes out of your income, but what you make is very little overhead. If there is some special consumables and things like that, that's what I was saying yesterday. I guess I didn't really specify, or I think I actually talked about it in my rig tour video, where I charge more on some things to cover a little bit of extra expenses, or if I, like have to go a long ways out of town. But all of that stuff is kind of included, like when I bid a job, because, it might take me 3 hours to do it, but I'm not going to charge $300 if it's a commercial job because of all the factors included in it. And one of the things I think the biggest thing about commercial work is understanding the scope of work, the risk, and then the time, so like I bid to install straps on the roof. They wanted these little 20 gauge metal straps on the roof to attach some panels to. And for the time I had in it, I had a couple days worth. It's like 2.5 days, I think, is what it took me to do it. And so let's be like super conservative on hours and say I just worked 10 hours. So I had 15 hours in it. I definitely did it for more than $1,500 because it was overhead work. I supplied the screws, and we already had the material from another part of the job. And the biggest thing that you have to consider in that is just literally like your risk in doing it. You're going to be working overhead the whole time, and then whatever other factors, you're sitting right next to the insulation, so now you're, like, there's just a lot of pieces to kind of consider into it. And so I really kind of overbid it, I think, in a way. But if you look at averages on what commercial work a lot of times pays a lot more. And so there have been parts on the job where it has been averaging in the $400 an hour range, $450 an hour range. But you also have to think, if it was a 3-person job and you were covering 3 people, things like that. And so typically for, like, if you were bidding a job T&M for, let's say, to come in and weld pipe, and, you needed 2 welders, 2 fitters, 2 fire watches, and maybe a helper. What you pay the welder and the fitter and the fire watch, we'll say fire watch is $10 an hour. They're probably charging the company like $22 an hour for that one person. And then the company, so like myself, I would bid $20 an hour for a fire watch and then pay the fire watch the 10, or, I don't know what the rate is. When I hired in 2010, it was $10 an hour. So I'm sure it's $12 an hour or something now, but basically the T&M rate for that, like the rate that they charge the company is almost double a lot of times on what literally just the labor is. And then the materials, that's on you. So like if I was supplying the material and it cost me $100, I'm probably charging $150 on those bigger jobs because I have to go get it and I have to haul it and then I have to bring it, And so when you're an employee for a company, you can pretty much guarantee that whatever you're making, the company's making on you too. And a lot of times, especially on shutdowns, T&M rate is double time for overtime. So we, as the employee, when you work for a company, make time and a half. Well, the employee is charging double time. So if you make 20 an hour, you're getting 30 an hour on the weekends. Well, they're charging 40 an hour, and now they're charging 80 an hour. So then their margin is a lot more. So they're making $50 an hour for you on overtime. But there's a lot of things to consider in that too. Like if you're working a lot of overtime, you got to consider the risks in, hey, you're running your guys, whatever, working weekends, working nights. There's a lot of things to consider as the company owner, that you might be at a higher risk with a guy that has now worked 7 12s, and on that 7th day he might be cracking out and tired and whatever else. There's more chance that you could have an injury or whatever. So I do understand and would advocate for kind of squeezing the profits out of it as the business owner at that point. But I said I was going to make this less about business and more about insight, but I guess this is all things to think about for your Thoughtful Thursday. I'm gonna head on over to Denko. I'm about 25 minutes out. I gotta make a couple phone calls on the way. I'm gonna go in here. I'll take you guys in there and show you the showroom. I didn't realize until yesterday that they actually have a whole steel market. So they have all the steel and everything there. Forgot to take my allergy medicine this morning, so my nose is itching. So they have all kind of steel there, so that's a benefit to using that place, and they're kind of en route to some of my jobs, so I can hit them on the way. So that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna go grab these couple things from them real quick and then hit over on that fab. But I'll take you guys in the showroom and show you some of the ornamental stuff they have. And if you guys are in the Colorado area, I definitely recommend going through there. But you can search ornamental handrails or ornamental steel or whatever. I forgot how they coined it. Ornamental in glass. So check out in your area if you have that. And so if you guys are interested in fabricating handrails, maybe there's a shop in your area that has all that stuff, and it would be, you know, like, it makes it so much easier than having to fabricate a lot of those things. And, you know, if you want decorative balusters, or you're doing some interior, people don't want the more modern and sleek look, there you go. So on the way to Denko, then over to Fab, then gotta go back, pick up some materials. Let's see what else we have today. I got a 2 o'clock appointment to look at a fourplex. And then, assuming I get those materials, I need to go double check that funky job I was talking about, because he was a little bit busy earlier this week, but I need to get those materials ordered for tomorrow. And then hopefully this weekend I can find some help to go over there and help me put that in, because it's going to be a heavy job. But let's ride, baby! Alright, so just finished up at that one house with the interior rail. I'll throw a picture up of it real quick, but yeah, I didn't shoot video in that house either. Must be a funeral coming through. Oh yeah. I didn't shoot any video on that because I was just in and out, in and out, in and out. But basically what I did was I put the base plate down, which is a stamped base plate. I had the video in here from Denko showing all the things that they have, and I'll show you that right here. Here's all those pieces I was talking about. All sorts of designs you can friggin' think of. All little pieces. And then, so I used that stamped base plate for the bottom, 2x2 rail, cut it to 35 at about 3/8, which is normally about enough you need to get a 36 at the top. Ended up being just a hair over 36. And then so I cut it at 35 and 3/8, and then laid the rail that was going to be on the bottom down on the ground, put a piece of scrap tubing to block it off the wall because I was running a piece up on the wall to attach it, and then basically I just measured that to where it was going to hit that 1 inch or 1x2, and then marked the line, cut it, and then for the top I tacked a piece at 35 and 3/8 so I used that method to cut the top angle so it matched. And so where I just had it, I put it up next to the 1 inch, made the angle, and then I used that piece to hold it up against the wall. So I will shoot a video on this when I do it the next time, just so you have an idea. Again, this is just my way of doing it. Might not be the best, but it works for me. So now I have the bottom rail done. I take the piece that I had cut at 35 and 3/8. Actually, I cut it at 35 because it was on the bottom side. And then tacked it to my top rail, and then held it up against to where it was going to hit the top of the front, the inside of the 2x2, and then just marked along the 2x2 where it was going to be cut. Then I cut the top of that, and then set a piece on top, marked it to the outside, because I want my top to have a cap on the end that comes flush with where the end of the 2x2 is, and then on the bottom I just have it where it's welded up to the piece against the wall. So you'll see in the picture how I did it, and it'll make a little bit more sense if you pay attention. I'll throw it up again real quick. And then, yeah, so you can just see how I laid that out, and then I got it all tacked, took it outside. I figured, well, since I had the welder out, I just welded it out. I made 3 welds and ran out of wire, and so that one spool of 10-pound wire has lasted me since early June, and it's middle of September, and I've used it almost every freaking day. So definitely has paid off. I guess I got it in, yeah, middle of June, something like that. Anyway, now I'm headed over to meet a client to look at that fourplex. I will shoot some video of that just so I have it on record for my personal thoughts. That way if I need to look back at how something's laid out or whatever. But this is going to be a repair and replace. He said he had 70 feet of railing that needed to be repaired or replaced. So, like I was saying, I'm going to charge him by the foot for what I have to replace, by the hour for what I have to fix, and we'll see what we got. Hopefully it's a bunch of like places where I can just replace the top rail or whatever, and I'm assuming he's just going to have somebody come out and paint it since it won't match the other stuff. But let's ride over there, get some grub. Looks like I'm going to be about a half an hour early, so let's head over. Alright, so just got to this location. From what it looks like, we're going to be replacing this whole stair here. Probably a whole set of railings all the way around. I haven't built one of these sets like that before, but it's definitely not outside my wheelhouse. I just have to see how he wants to attach it down to the ground here, since it looks like it was concreted in. And probably go with metal stair tread. Just get the prefab ones. And yeah, so waiting on the client to get here. I'll probably just cut those flush, put a base plate, run a rail, and then weld those between the 2 posts. Weld that up there. And then probably anchor into the brick or weld it to the side like it is there, all the way around. For something like this too, like I was saying, it's probably just going to be painted, so I will likely just come fab it on site. Park my rig kind of at the gate, and yeah. So we're also going to be doing these back rails. The client just left. We're probably going to maybe do some patches on this, and we're not exactly sure on the stairs. There are some holes, but we really need to get it up to code, so our best bet on the back would be just to patch it if that would pass. But otherwise, I don't know for sure on what that code is for this city, but you can see some pretty big rusted out holes from de-icing. And so yeah, looks like we got this job. Sending over the bid today. I'm gonna put a rail in place of that one and get after it. So now we're headed to Denko, pick up material for bus, and then head on over there and start working on that.